So I learned to be patient, for one. I learned that sometimes things will come to you. Instead of you having to feel like, oh, I need to go out and get it. Like, I need to leave this and attack this. Like, that kind of aggressiveness that I had when I first left school, I kind of like tamed it down a little bit. And not to use that word in a negative way, but I learned how to channel it. I'll say that.
So without further ado, this beautiful voice, this sultry voice, let me introduce her. This is Miss Kaneisha Montague. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself.
Okay. I really don't even know where to start my career. I feel like I've done a million things. But
she really has, y'all.
Yes. I'm Kaneisha Montague, Ari's friend. We met actually while I was doing bar fitness, which is completely different from what I'm doing now. But
right.
But yes, I'm 29 years old, living here in Atlanta, Caribbean heritage. And yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so that's the background. Where shall we start? What do you currently do, Kaneisha?
Okay. All right. So I'm currently working in TV. I've been working in TV for probably about 8 years. Managing 8 networks right now. Used to work for the Weather Channel prior to that, doing digital work.
Okay.
And then I've also worked for Candy Burrs. I used to do editing for her.
Wow.
I used to work for Dr. Chinzira, doing documentaries for her. Okay. And so I've just always been in the TV landscape. I love TV. And I love people trying to figure out like why we watch what we watch, or, you know, what advertisements would, you know, bring more attention to certain people during certain shows. Like, It's a lot of background research, and I just kind of like fell in love with it. So now I'm working at Bounce TV, but also working for Grit, Laugh, Court TV UK, Mystery, Defy, and The Real. Okay. So doing the same thing I was doing for the Weather Channel, but for all of these networks.
Yes. That is so much to get into. And that is so cool. See, one thing about this podcast, I'm going to do a lot more research so I can learn a little bit more about like all those crazy cool things that you are getting into. I don't know how I would have even found out that you, so I knew you were in TV production, but I didn't know what part of TV production you were part of. So it sounds like you're on the research side of things. And then, okay, so tell me a little bit more about how you even got into the research. Did you know, or did you always think you're going to be behind the camera, or did you go from wanting to be on the front of the camera to the back of the camera?
I was never in front of the camera. Never. Like, you know, I have a big personality sometimes, and other times I'm kind of just like, I'm very technical. So I'm like, I want to make sure that things translate the way I want them to translate. So that's how I ended up behind the scenes. Okay. And initially I wanted to go to school for dance at Spelman. My dad said no. He was like, if we're paying for college, you need to figure out something else that's a little bit more like concrete. Yeah. So I picked up psychology and got into like mind and how people think and make the decisions that they make. Then I was like, yeah, this is cool, but where's the creative, right? And I'm a creative person, so I'm like, I have to figure out a way to bridge the two. So I took a documentary course, and the documentary teacher basically was like, what you're going to do is find a subject, and then, which is people, right? Studying people, and then figure out a story that would translate to an audience. So me and a partner, we ended up walking the streets of Atlanta one day, jumped off the train, walked down. I can't remember the name of the street, but it was a homeless shelter. We went in and we were like, you know, it could be a great story if we do like a homeless story, but that's been done before. So like, what else can we do? So there was an art studio right next to the homeless shelter that was open for homeless artists. They could come in and, you know, be creative and get them off the streets, keep them out of trouble. Ran into this lady who she was like full of energy, colorful, and like just so vibrant. We couldn't believe that she was actually homeless, but she was. She was a great artist, a great singer, and like she just started spilling out all these things that she had been through, and our camera wasn't even on. So we were like, she's a subject. Right? So we followed her around for a year, getting all this footage, and then we put together a 12-minute documentary after following her for a year, because, you know, they don't need everything. They need like the hit points. So after we did that, it premiered at Midtown Art Cinema. And the response that we got really showed me like, you probably belong here. Like, this is my first time doing a documentary, and kind of just like, you know, figuring out as I went. And it worked without me having to throw too much energy into it. It kind of felt natural to me. So now I was like, okay, well, I can study people. and be in the film industry and be creative. So after I graduated, I was like, dang, I got to get into some kind of network. But you realize how hard it is to get a job after you leave college. So I'm like, dang, like I have to take something that's not exactly what I want, but is along the lines that can get me there. Yeah. And a friend of mine, her mom worked at the Weather Channel as a lawyer, and she got me in research. So that's how I ended up in research, yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is super exciting. So you did one project that lit your life up, and you had to, I'm assuming in this project you had to film her. Yep. To listen to her story and then find out what those high points are. Mm-hmm. Did you have to do the editing and the write up? I'm sure. Yep. So what did that project entail?
Oh boy, long nights, sleepless nights. Like literally, imagine like reality TV. They follow you around with the camera. Yeah, we were her camera crew basically, and she was homeless in and out of that year. So when she was sleeping in her car, we would be right there, not overnight with her in her car. It's invasive, but like recording her, and she was just so open that she didn't mind us being in that small space with her. And then, she would smoke, she would get a little high, she want to talk, and we're like, oh yeah, cool, like, let's do this, whatever. But, so a lot of that, and then a lot of sitting in front of the computer, looking at all the footage and like asking ourselves, is this going to grab people? Is this part going to grab people? Is this part important? Does this part fall in the storyline? Cutting a lot of things out, because initially the documentary was 30 minutes. We watched it, and we watched it with like a small crowd of people, and they were like, you don't need half of this. Mm-hmm. So we ended up having to cut it, and it hurts because, you go and you get all this footage, and you're like, but no, like, it's really important. And people are like, but it's not. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of cutting, a lot of, hurt feelings about a lot of background work done. But, and then the music also plays a big part in film. Okay. So not necessarily like the words, but you have to add some kind of like musicality behind it in order for the words to kind of fit into the story and still keep people's attention, because sometimes it's not about what they hear but what they see. Yeah. So a lot of it was just a lot of puzzle putting together. Yeah, like make this make sense to a large group of people. Okay, so since this was your first time, how were you approaching? Like, what was your mindset at the time? Like, were you like, do you remember saying, we need sad music right here, or we need this artist? Like, how did you think about that? And then how did you think through communicate, like what you wanted to communicate after looking at all of the footage? So the story kind of developed itself. Like, we had an idea that we were kind of like, we want to show people like, Atlanta has this place for homeless artists, and we found one. But, after being with her, we realized that she had like mental health issues, she had family issues, and then it kind of just turned into like a biopic of her. Okay. And then there were certain parts that obviously felt sad because she's telling you something really sad, but you don't want to milk it. Like you're like, I'm watching this sad scene and they just put like the sad noise in the back. Now I feel like I'm about to cry for 3 days. Like, you don't want that. Yeah. But you want people to feel like I feel what she feels without them having to force it on me. So we would like put a song in and we watch the clip and we're like, that's not it. We put another song in and we'll watch the clip. We like, that's close, but that's not it. Yeah. And we would do that like over and over until we watched it and it felt like, I get it. Oh. So that took a lot of time.
Okay, so when you speak about this experience, and I think I told you about this, but when I left my job, I spent a year at Covenant House, Georgia, working with homeless young people. So that whole year, I submerged myself into that life. But one of the things that people do in the homeless industry, when they try to fundraise, is tell a young person's story from the milkiest perspective. Yeah, I mean, they want to. Like if they could get the violins, they would literally. And what it sounds like is you did that. You told her story from a place where she was respected. Now, I'm only assuming, right? But I'd love for you to share a little bit about what were the reactions from the video. And then do you feel like something like what you did in school would be a good deliverable that even homeless shelters could use to tell a story and get millions of dollars without using that? Like,
that's awesome.
Okay, well, first, what do you think about, what were the reactions? Let's start there. And then we can kind of talk a little bit more about like that that piece, because I think that there's definitely opportunity to take something like that and make these people still human and they still get millions of dollars. So first, what were their reactions though?
So I didn't know what to expect. Like, you know, when you're really close to a project and it feels like your baby, you're kind of like, you know, you see all the imperfections. Even if you feel like I've been working on this for forever, I just got to put it out. And then, you know, while I was watching, I was like, ooh, cringe moment. I could have fixed that. But while other people were watching it, people were crying sitting next to us. People were like, oh my gosh. People were clapping during the 12 minutes. Like, you know, random parts that feel really good in the movie. You're like, oh. Mm-hmm. And when they were doing it, it kind of felt surreal because I'm like, really? Like, that made y'all feel that way? That's really cool. Like, I wasn't expecting that. The girl who was the subject, she brought friends with her for support because she was like, you know, I don't know how I'm going to feel seeing my story on TV, but she cried. Her friends were like, y'all captured her really well. So, you know, that made me proud.
I don't know why I'm feeling some type of way right now. I am not the most emotional person.
Please don't.
I swear I'm not. I don't know why. Let me get that together. I think that is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. That is so beautiful. So your career started with that. Okay. I'm so curious about where the research started. So we can actually take that question about the homelessness industry, if you want to tackle that
right now,
or how did research play a part in what you did? Like, were you doing a lot of statistic work, or what research goes into making that documentary what it was? And if you can think about it from a professional standpoint, even if you didn't do as much research as you would have as a professional, what research goes into that type of project?
So we did a lot of research on, even in the beginning when we first found her, because we weren't 100% sold that this is a story. We just thought that she was a great subject. Okay. So we were still thinking that homelessness was a story. So we did a lot of research on homeless shelters in Atlanta, period. Like, we went to a couple of different ones. We talked to a couple of different people. And, you know, research can be qualitative and quantitative. Mm-hmm. So about not money, but numbers, and also about, like, information, right? So, you know, we're like, oh, let's compare the homeless shelters in Atlanta. Let's see how they're treated, men compared to women, because there's a difference there. Or children in homeless shelters. And then we can have her speak on the overall experience of a homeless person. Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. So the subject was still homelessness. And we were doing all our research up here when, you know, the subject was really the story. So that's probably where most of the research went in. Okay. And then when you talk to people, you know, I just have this thing where I listen more than I speak when I meet people, because I think that's research also in itself. Like, speaking to someone, you hear what they say, but then what they don't say, what you can, like, read between the lines and pick up, that's research too, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And it helped me figure out how to communicate with her. You know, I don't want to talk at her. I want her to feel like she has known me for forever, because I need her to open up so that we can get a good story. Yeah. So when she starts talking, I'm sitting there and I'm like, like, you know, taking it all in. That's research for me. Okay. So the next time I come back and I speak to her, I'm approaching it in a different way based on what I learned from our first interaction. That is so
cool. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Guys, so I, like Kaneisha mentioned, we met during our time at, you know, in bar fitness. And so, of course, we didn't get a chance to talk so much about our corporate careers, because we were also in a space like working towards our entrepreneurial muscle. So I think we both were like, corporate job, that's what it is. It's there. I don't remember talking much about my corporate job. We never talked about yours.
That's true.
And now I'm learning the makings of your career has just been amazing. So I'm so excited to get into the next part. So as a professional now, and of course we have to get into your actual, like, professional role. Mm-hmm. But if I just ask you this question again, what do you think about using footage like that to, like, as like a fundraising platform? Do you, like, and you know we have to put this on the podcast so that people can see what this documentary looks like.
Cool. And I still feel like, oh, that's my baby, don't judge it. I'm sensitive about my shit. You know how that goes.
They gonna love it. I mean, literally, I had tears already coming, so just from you talking about it. But it sounds like it was an authentic way to tell a person's story without demeaning them. Yeah. Do you think, now that we're talking about it, the homeless industry could tap into something like this type of format to authentically tell a story and still get the funds that they are looking for without exploiting their young people.
And that's the hard part, right? Because you don't want to make someone feel like they're being used, even though, there's an end goal to this, right? So I think it could be, it definitely could be, but whoever is behind the camera would have to be very compassionate and sincere about what they're doing and who the subjects are, because you can't just use people to get what you want, especially if it's to benefit them. You want them to understand that this is a safe space, this is a comfortable space, and we're trying to get this at the end of the day, but your story is just as important, if not more, to us.
So compassionate. It sounds like the person must also have a level of experience doing the research. Like, I'm assuming, I know you guys were college students, but what skills? Let's go ahead and just line it out. What skills does a person need? Of course, compassion, having that ability to do research. That way it informs your qualitative research and your quantitative data, right? It sounds also like a bit of like conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It sounds like you also wear like many different hats too, because I can imagine at a nonprofit, 1-2 max people would be able to be funded for something like this. But
that's great.
I mean, it sounds like it was 2 of you guys. You were experienced. I'm feeling like the person who's listening to this, who's in college right now, who is passionate about helping with homelessness or, domestic violence or anything like that, would be a great fit for something like this.
Yeah.
So what other skills do you feel like you picked up during that project?
Lord. Dedication.
Ooh.
Dedication, and just like, because there were times where my partner would tell me like, yo, like, I'm dropping out. Like, we've been following this girl for a year. I'm tired. Like, and you would have to be the one who, if you're working in a partnership, you would have to be the one that, regardless of what happens, like, your feelings about the project can never waver, which is difficult, especially if you're working with someone else, because a lot of times people's energies rub off on you. So your partner could be like, yo, the story is not coming together, what we about to do, and you could also start feeling like that too, but you have to remember the end goal. So those nights where you're not sleeping because you're editing the same little clip over and over to get it perfect, like, that cannot waver from the beginning of the project to the end. So dedication for sure.
That's awesome.
Maybe a lot of Red Bull.
Okay. That was just like a period of time. Yeah. And I know you're more natural now, so I don't know when the last time you had a Red Bull. But
girl, I cannot do it. But back then, what Red Bulls lined up, okay?
Yes.
You gotta stay awake.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that was a cool project. It got you your first job in the Weather Channel, in the research department. How much of that did you take to your first job? And then how much of it did you like, oh, I wish I was doing more of that.
I wish I was doing more of that. You're so green when you graduate from college. You feel like, oh, like, I can still do whatever I want. And no. I learned that very quick.
Like opposite.
Very, very quick while I was working in corporate. Because it's research, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but, your girl's a producer. Like, no, you're not. You worked on one project, and these producers have been doing this for years. So, like, I would use my film and, like, send it to people on LinkedIn that worked at the Weather Channel in production, same building as me. And I'll be like, hey, I'm on the 4th floor. You can check this out. Let me know if you like it. I would love to have a conversation with you. I'm doing this while I'm at work and not doing work, right? So it's like you're kind of out of line. But at the same time, I was so passionate about getting behind the camera wherever I was. I did literally any and everything. Like, you a college student. That's you hustle, So I remember my manager telling me, she was like, I know that you want to, like, have conversations with people, but try to do it off the clock. I said, oh, you peeped? And she was like, yeah, like, I know, like, I understand, but, just, do it when you don't have to be working.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, I respect that, because she could have easily been like, look, girl, get out of here.
Yeah,
but she was really nice, and I met with a couple of people. They watched the documentary, and they said they really liked it. But it's hard to transition from creating a documentary to working for a TV network that focuses on, like, weather, because it's just different. Like, companies run different, and filming has so many different pockets that because you can do one thing doesn't mean you could do this. Okay. Like, if you're a producer for action film doesn't mean you're really great at producing a romance. Like, if you're doing documentaries, doesn't mean you could do, like, you know what I mean? So,
action, or I guess would action be a part of the Weather Channel? What type of videos did the Weather Channel produce other than
And everybody always says that because, you think Weather Channel, you're like, all right, is it raining today or not? That's all I'm here for.
Yes.
But we actually had, like, real content. We had, like, shows, but, I mean, people don't come to the Weather Channel for shows. But we were trying to transition into, like, a space of, come to the Weather Channel for everything. Like, be here all day, watch your news in the morning, and then watch, not a sitcom, but, like, watch a TV show later that has to do with weather. Like, they would do, like, home building or weird stuff like that.
Okay. And then you mentioned romantic. Was that like you were just pulling that out?
Yeah, we don't have no romance. No romance in the Weather Channel.
I'm like, what were y'all just, a scene in the rain, kissing?
Oh, God. That would have been funny, though. That would have been really funny.
I mean, it's a spin, depending on whatever the executives were trying to get, Oh, romance. Yeah. Okay, so you were hustling on the side. You were using that video to pretty much provide credibility to say, hey, I've done this.
Yeah.
Do you think this is something I can work with in a career?
Yeah.
You had a couple people say, I liked it. And then okay. Yeah, like they were, but what? How would you feel?
But like, you need more experience.
Okay.
You always hear that when you graduate from college. Like, you need experience. How am I supposed to get it if you don't hire me?
Yeah. In hindsight, what do you think you would have told that person?
Hire me.
Young. You would just been like, no, just hire me now.
Yeah, hire me. Like, me. What I don't know, I will learn. And what I do know, I'll bring it to the table. Like, hustle. That's what you do when you hustle, right? You bring to the table what you know, and while you're in the middle of it, you learn everything else.
Well, how did you handle it then? Like, when you got those...
I wasn't sad. I was just like, all right, who next? Who can I hit up next? Like, I always have like this solution mentality. Like, I'm always looking for, okay, that didn't work, so what will? So it didn't really stop me, but okay.
I got you. So how long were you at the Weather Channel?
Maybe like 2 years.
Okay.
2 years, and then we were bought by IBM, and the Weather Channel kind of like, the department split up. You know, when you get bought over by another company, they come in, a lot of things change. Ended up leaving, the whole department kind of just, everybody went their own way pretty much.
Okay. And kind of folded under IBM. Okay. So 2 years, you were like, was that because you thought you were going to leave sooner, or what was that reaction for?
I guess it was like, I was just so eager to get to production and behind the camera that I was like, look, if I don't get it now, I'm out. Like, because you just don't want to be complacent. You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to be somewhere doing something that you don't enjoy for too long. Yeah. And then your dreams and your hopes kind of like fall to the wayside. Yeah. I just didn't want that.
Got you. So that's why when you look back at 2 years, you think that was longer than it should have been.
I really should have stayed. I feel like I really could have stayed because there's so many departments you could end up in, like, and you could just learn so many different things. But I don't regret leaving because, I love where I'm at right now. But, hindsight 2020.
Absolutely.
Who knows where I would be, honestly.
Yeah. But depending on who, it's like, I talk about like big thinking and then big success, but if you want to get to where you want to go, the variables is where you were. So yeah, you were in a good environment. How you could get up there, you were doing the right things, like talking to the right people, but that who matters. Yeah. So it's like, if you got to find the right mentor, the right person to hear you, the person who's in the right mindset to even be willing to give you a leg up, because all of that stuff matters. And for sure. So you made the right decision for your own career, it sounds like. Yeah. So what was the next? I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah. After that, I was not working for 6 months.
Okay. Did you just leave? Okay. What happened?
Because, like I said, when you're young, you just feel like I could do anything. Like, I'm going to be 2 days without a job and end up as a manager next week. Like, you just have that, like, unstoppable mentality, which is great, but you have to throw a little realism in there.
But should you, though? Because...
Why not?
So, sometimes I think that naivety is what creates action.
Okay.
Like,
I'm with that, yeah.
You took action and you learned from it. So, you could have stayed and you could have gone up the ranks, but that wasn't necessarily what was for you. Your heart said move, so you moved. And then whatever happened in those 6 months is what happened. But before we get there, I need to know, how did you get to a place where you said, no, I don't care if I don't have it? Because, everybody says get a job before you leave your job. So something said, no, I don't care. I'm out of here. What led up to you leaving without a job?
I was okay with it. Like, I know that sounds like so, like, maybe not satisfying, like that answer, but I was just okay with it. Because I just felt like I could make it happen.
Okay, so you were really just finding your role. Mm-hmm. You were just doing the job. You just weren't getting into production soon enough. Yeah. And so you said, the only way I'm going to get into production is if I leave. Yeah. So it wasn't like you hated your boss, hated your job, hated the environment. You literally were just like, I think I'm going to try a different way.
Yeah, I thought the Weather Channel was a great place to work. I think many people would agree. It's like, I love it so much. I still talk about it to this day. It was just so open. Like, literally, you know how sometimes when you work for corporate, your department is your department. Mm-hmm. Like, what's going on over here or on another floor, you have no idea. Yeah. The Weather Channel would do things to where it's like, this department is presenting something cool that they're working on, this big open space. You could roll up here on your scooter or your yoga ball and just, like, listen to them. We got snacks and stuff. And I'm just like, this is real life. This is so cool. Like, you learn literally about every department just by, they would just let you know, like, you want to come hear about this today? Of course. You meet people that way.
That is so.
You network. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which most companies don't do. So.
Most companies don't do. Mm-hmm. I will say, I've worked in both a very camaraderie-driven company and then also a silo type of company. Yeah. Yeah. And I just had to, like, broker relationships just because of my personality. And then, but it was so funny. Quick story. The first time I came to my last company, I got used to, like, doing coffee chats. So my first company was Target. Leaders knew you were going to put 30 minutes on the calendar just to get to know them. So the first time I did it at my next company, I thought it was cool. And it's kind of a part of my personality. Mm-hmm. But when I did it at my next company, it was just like, so what are we here for? So it was just like, so what can I help you with? Yeah. And it was just so much more like, nothing, but I should have been more prepared because I did not think that she was going to be, like, grilling me. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel personable. It didn't feel like a networking environment. It didn't feel like you were allowed to know what was going on in somebody else's department unless somebody would think you were trying to vie for a job there. Yeah. So it's very weird, very bureaucratic.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. But your job doesn't. It sounds like it was cool. However, you made your decision. Did you put in a 2 weeks notice? How did that work? Yeah. You send an email and then your boss understood?
And then, the Weather Channel was kind of like an open floor plan. So there was basically like a long desk and computers. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a wall here or a cubicle or a door, nothing. So literally where you're sitting, my manager would sit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, we would talk all the time.
Okay. So it was no surprise.
No surprise. She had no hard feelings. She was like, I know you're young. You want to experience things. It's perfectly fine. Like, it was great working with you. I hope you learned a lot. That was it. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't crazy.
All right. So then chapter 3 is this 6-month hiatus from employment. Tell me, what was that like?
Living at home, at my mom's house, my mother, my father, my sister, everybody in the house. I was chilling. I didn't have no issue. I was like, I get to be super creative, do whatever I want to, like wake up when I want, don't have to be at work, don't have to dress up because I hate dressing up. Yeah. In corporate clothes anyway. It just feels restrictive to me. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, whenever I come across a job, it's fine. When the money starts dwindling down and you're like, I gotta pay for my car, like all these things. So it's kind of like, instead of finding something that I actually wanted to do, I had to find a job that I needed to pay for stuff. Okay. So I ended up in insurance, way far away from TV. Wow. Super far away. Mm-hmm. Hated it. Okay. Was there for Lord knows how long. Way too long. Okay, a day would have been too long. I was there. I cannot remember how long I was there. It wasn't a couple of years. Couldn't have been. It was just a terrible environment. Okay.
What did you have to do? Like, you were just like pay for like a.
It was like life insurance, medical insurance, just short-term, long-term disability, having conversations with people on the phone to figure out, like, are you working? What kind of condition are you in? Having conversations with the medical staff to make sure that they're still, like, not fit to work and should be receiving, financial assistance. It just wasn't great. Calling people on the phone, first of all, just is so impersonal to me. Calling people that I don't know, like cold calling them, it was just awkward. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I feel so outside of myself, and not in a way that I feel like I can grow from, but in a way that I just know it's not for me. Mm-hmm. Right? But I was doing it because I'm like, damn, I got these bills to pay. Like, I'll come in, I guess. Like, I'll work. Like, but it just wasn't great. But the people that I met there, absolutely love. Like, I met one of my closest friends there, and we hang out all the time. Love her. And just a bunch of other people we used to hang out all the time. So if I got anything from that job, it was a great set of people.
Awesome.
Right?
And it also taught you what you don't want to do.
Exactly. No. I would think a million times before going back into insurance.
Yes.
But, ended up leaving there. Definitely put in my 2 weeks. I would have put in 2 hours if I could have, because they were just so rude. And I'm like, I just came from a great company and being on a 6-month hiatus to working for people who clearly don't care about you. Which was my first taste of corporate, where people don't care about you. Just had like a really rude manager, just rude.
Yeah.
Like, they were just rude. And, I don't like being disrespected when I feel like you're openly disrespecting me. Like, you're going out of your way to make sure that I know that I'm like inferior to you, which I know that I'm young and I'm a small frame person, but at the same time, like, I'm working here just like you are. Like, respect is respect, period. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Left.
Without a job, or you?
No, after, I may be saying my job's out of order because I don't work so many places. But after I left there,
so long for the ride.
After I left there, I went into childcare services.
Okay,
which clearly you can see, I'm like, you know, once again, just trying to continue to pay bills and survive, and in the meantime, like, looking up stuff to get back into production, whatever. Started working in childcare, which I thought was a little bit closer to research and psychology and the way people think and just being around people. Yeah. Horrible company once again. But I did meet a great friend there. Hey, can't be mad at that. You meet people everywhere. She's great. Still talk to her to this day, but the company was just terrible. Like, we came across people who didn't care about adopting kids. They cared about the money. And that broke my heart. And I'm like, I can't be the one to be putting kids in homes where I know they're not cared for. They're already going from a bad situation, and I feel like I'm not helping. And I just couldn't do it. Yeah. And the company was unprofessional, whatever. So ended up leaving there too.
Was it a nonprofit, and it sounds like a foster home type setup, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where we would basically get like all these files on all these kids who needed to be placed. And then we would have families who come to us, to get certified in like how to take care of a foster child. So we would do the training for them in-house. And then they would have to like sign off on all of these after they take classes with us, basically saying like, okay, like I finished this course, or I understand this part of raising a foster child or whatever. And then sometimes kids would like have to come to the office because like they had an issue with the house they were placed in. We had no place else to take them. It was a lot, and it wasn't necessarily what I went in for. And it began to get emotionally overwhelming for me. And I was still young. So, you know, you don't really understand how to manage emotional stress at that time, especially when it comes to work. Yeah. So it just got to be too much. And then the owners of the company were unprofessional as well. You know, I was trying my best to show them my growth in the corporate realm, but when people don't meet you with, you know, the professionalism, you're kind of like, what is this? Like, I'm confused. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, ended up leaving. I had to like block everyone from that company completely because they were like making up stories about me and the other girl who I was close to at the job. Just making up stuff because we did our jobs really well. Okay. And we were really close, me and this girl. And I guess they didn't like that. See, I was like, no, I'm out.
Yes. Okay, so from the frying pit to the fire. So how did you find your way back into film?
Okay, so anytime when I'm working or not working, I'm always thinking about projects, like just always, because, you know, stories are everywhere. And if my boyfriend watches this, he's going to laugh. But he always talks about this one story that he really just wants me to do. So one day I was driving to school when I was still at Spelman, and I had like a 98 Beamer. Used to break down on me, like all types of stuff. So I'm driving to school, car breaks down, gas station, and I locked my keys inside. So I'm like, damn it. So I called the guy and he's like, yeah, it's going to take me 2 hours to get there. So I'm like, all right, I done missed class. I'm chilling. So I go in the gas station and, you know, they have like the slot machines or whatever. And they have like a table usually if you go in like a, you know, like a neighborhood gas station or something.
Okay.
So I'm sitting down at the table and, you know, I'm just chilling, sitting there watching people like play all these games. And this guy came in. He looked like he used to be in the military, older guy. And he's playing one of the games and he comes to me and then I'm like, how you play that game? Because I don't know how to play like the lottery or nothing like that. I just don't, right? So I'm like,
I can imagine where this is going.
So I'm like, how do you play this game? And, you know, he sits there and he teaches me and I'm like, wow. And he's like, yeah, I'm here every day. And then I was like, why? And he was like, you know, I was in the military. I injured myself. And, you know, he was like, this is basically my lifeline. This is my hope. Like, I come in here all the time just hoping to win some money, take it home to my wife. And I was like, there's a story there. Yeah. Like, people really come in and play these games with, like, hope and like I'm hoping to win something. Like, I need this is my faith, this is my lifeline. And I just think it's an untapped area that I don't think a lot of us pay attention to. You see people play the lotto all day when you're going to pay like for gas, right? But why are they doing it and why are you not?
Right. What's the story?
What is the story? So my boyfriend is like, you should just do that. Like, that'd be so cool. Like, I don't know anything about it either, but you know, if you don't have time to dedicate to it. So I was like, I'll sit on it. But it was just an idea.
That is a great idea. I mean, and if he's still over there,
just ride through. But,
and if he actually hit big, that's an even bigger story.
I know.
Because at first you're thinking like, sorry to break it to you, but this is not the way. But if this man was like, yes, like who are we to tell him that his dream wasn't waiting for him?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, I learned something while I was waiting to get my car fixed. You know, I wasn't tripping about it. Just whatever. Like I said, I had already missed class. All right, I'm here.
Yeah, make the most of it.
Yeah, so like I was only saying that to say that I'm always thinking about projects, regardless of what job I'm on. I'm always thinking about it, or when I'm not working, I'm thinking about projects too. So I got back to film because I had a project in mind, and I told my dad about it. And my dad said, ooh, I know this guy who, he works for Caribbean Life TV. Pitch the project to him and see what he says. Pitched it to him, loved it. He was like, okay, we're going to bring you on board. They brought me on board, but I ended up working on their projects and not mine. Which initially I was like, okay, they wanted me to direct. They wanted me to like manage these TV shows that they had going. And I thought it was fine. You know, and it was for a while until I realized I'm stretching myself thin, you know, trying to work on your stuff, trying to work on mine. And then it was an internship. I wasn't getting paid. So I had to have a job, right? So I started just interviewing for research again. Like, I got to get back in the door some kind of way. I interviewed for Cox Media. And then the very next day, I got a DM from this woman who was close to my boss at the Weather Channel. And she was like, oh, we have a spot open at Bounce. Do you want to come in for an interview? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I had 2 research interviews back to back. And Cox had already gave me an offer. Great offer. Loved it. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely going with them. Like, the money is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I got an offer from Bounce. And when I went in for my interview, even though they didn't offer me as much, the environment and the women that I was going to be working with, I fell in love with because it reminded me a lot of the Weather Channel. I was like, this is, because I used to love it so much. I'm like, it only makes sense to go with what you feel instead of what's going to pay you, right? Because somebody says they'll pay you close to 6 figures and you get fired before the end of the year, you don't make 6 figures. So what's the point?
Right.
So I ended up going there, and I've been there for going on 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so much to unpack there. So did you negotiate? I'm just curious. Did you negotiate your salary?
I didn't. I'm like, that's one thing I probably should have learned more when I was working in corporate, like pay attention to the fact that you could do that, but I didn't. And, you know, silly me, but
well, you know what? The funny, I hate that. I have to stop saying funny because this is not gonna be funny what I say. But the vast majority of women and then women of color, we don't negotiate our salaries, and we find ourselves sitting next to a counterpart, a white counterpart, a white male counterpart who is less educated than us. and makes like, 10 or 20K more than we do.
Agreed.
And it's literally because we didn't ask.
Yep.
And I think that is one thing that if we could tell more of our people in corporate to just ask for it. Mm-hmm. And then, stand on it. Because like you said, you do research, like stand on it, know what your value is, and then be able to like, talk about your education, your experience and that kind of thing. Because a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't.
That's true. I didn't.
Yeah. Don't even worry about it. So, okay. But you still got a salary that you wanted. What would you say is like the developing part of those 5 years? Like you said it was the women, the culture. Mm-hmm. What type of growth did you get to see over the last like 5 years from who you were when you started Bounce and now?
Oh boy. That's a tough one. I don't know, I just feel like I learned so much while being there. Definitely from the people that I was working with. And for sitting down and being still for so long in one place. Because, I'm telling you, I'm like bouncing around, working here, working there. And I get to Bounce and I'm here for 5 years. Like, with the same people, doing the same thing, which is, something I haven't done before. So I learned to be patient, for one. I learned that sometimes things will come to you. Instead of you having to feel like, oh, I need to go out and get it. Like, I need to leave this and attack this. Like, that kind of aggressiveness that I had when I first left school, I kind of like tamed it down a little bit. And not to use that word in a negative way, but I learned how to channel it. I'll say that. So I stayed there for 5 years because I wanted to give it a chance. Like, kind of like what I told you before about the Weather Channel, I could have stayed. So I wanted to apply that same mentality to this company. Stay. And figure out what happens, like, and when it came to making connections with people, I didn't slide in their DMs. Like, I really created like relationships with people at work because it was a smaller company, so everyone knew each other. Okay. So like, if we would have like like parties, Christmas parties and stuff, like you meet people there, then you see them at work the next day or next week, and you kind of like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? And then like you walk around the office on your break, and you walk past somebody's office that like now you could knock on the door, and you go in there and they're working. And you're like, hey, what you working on? And it's a producer. Hey, what you working on? It's an editor. And you get a little bit closer. I felt like I was getting a little bit closer to being able to slide into the slot that I wanted because I was creating real relationships and not just going after people for, that aggressive, hey, look at my work and tell me if you can hire me. That kind of thing.
That's right. So let's not forget that you were on a production spree. Like, you had to get production. That's the reason you quit the Weather Channel. So, like, did you, over the last 5 years, did you forget about that part? Or how did that evolve?
I didn't forget about it. This is going to sound so terrible. Well, to anybody in research, maybe. I really started falling in love with it. Like, oddly enough.
Really?
I really did, because the team that I was working with, for one, it was all Black women. And my boss made a thing about it. She was like, I want to hire Black women of color Black women of color. Women of color. Women of color to work in the research field, because you don't really see that often. It was 5 of us. All of us African American. Very, very smart women. And, we held our own in a company that was initially started out as Black owned. And then like, more white people started coming in. She was like, research team is going to hold it down. Like, Black women over here, like, research is kind of like the heart of media. Yeah. Because how do you know if you're doing well or not well? Like, you need research. Yeah. So she was like, I just want to continue to put y'all in positions to be powerful as far as that goes. Like, let people know that you are smart. So I loved it because I loved what she was doing for us. I loved how she was transforming us in that way. So it was more so about the energy that I was getting than this ain't production. You know what I mean? So
enjoying where you were, and that's what took you 5 years without feeling like, oh, I'm missing out on production. I'm really loving research. So I'm curious what the team was made of, like a team of Black women in research. Your degree was
Psychology. And women's studies.
Mm-hmm. And your other team members and your boss, what were their like backgrounds?
So my director actually went to Spelman, and she used to work at the Weather Channel, so I'd already known her. Mm-hmm. And then we've had like maybe about 3 different people come in and out since I've been there in that department, but still all like Black women. So we had another lady come from Viacom, and she was Jamaican. Okay. You know, Caribbean, love it.
Yes.
And then the lady who hired me from LinkedIn, she also used to work at the Weather Channel. She's best friends with my old boss from the Weather Channel. So, you know, me and her were cool because of that. And she was from New York, so very like, you know, I'm going to get mine type of energy, which I had a little bit of. Mm-hmm. So I love that about her. And then this other girl that worked there, like she got hired right before me. Her name was Ashley, and she used to work in fashion. And you know, she was just so well put together, and like she spoke well, but she was also from New York, so she had that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everybody on the team had a little spice to them. And, you know, spicy women plus a smart woman plus, like, you know, everybody was beautiful. I'm just like, yo, this is it. Okay? This is where I'm supposed to be right now for whatever reason. And I just soaked it all in. So, yeah.
That is so lit. Mm-hmm. So, if there was a person who wanted, did you ever do hiring or interviewing in that role?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, what type of things were you looking for to let a person into that circle?
Somebody who wasn't abrasive. Somebody who was open to learning, somebody who also wanted to sit still for a little while. Because I know for me, that's what, like I said, that's what I learned, to sit still. So you don't want someone who's coming in and saying like, you know, I plan on doing this and this and this and this, because to me that sounds too familiar to how I was bouncing around. Mm-hmm. And if I know that I learned a lot from coming in and sitting down and paying attention, I also paid attention to who is also coming in for that as well. Mm-hmm. So the girl that we found, awesome, really awesome, smart. And she hadn't worked in TV or research before, but she was so driven, and she wanted, like, you know, just to go from one career to another, that in itself made her want to come in and sit down and soak it up. So I was like, she's the one. Because you can teach people how to do this.
Okay.
But you can't teach someone like characteristics and energy, and it just fit. She just fit.
That is so cool. And so that was going to be my next question, because it sounds like, even though we didn't talk about their degrees, but the women that were on your team were all from different facets. Even though y'all had that spice that was similar, it doesn't sound like they needed, like, what type of education were you guys looking for? Or was there any type of education, even though
you're supposed to, you know what I'm saying? Like, have a degree in something similar to research, but
like statistics
but like, my degree wasn't in statistics, but as a psychologist, to get that degree, you have to take statistics courses. So she knew that I was exposed to it, but at the same time, she's kind of just like, I can teach you that. You know what I mean? Which I love, because back in the day when you want to get a job and they're like, oh, you don't have experience, they're not going to hire you.
Yes.
But she was like, I can teach you. I'll teach you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we weren't really looking for people who, do you have a degree in this? What school did you graduate from? Because, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot of pressure. And sometimes people just want a chance. Like, just give them a chance.
That is literally in the moment, practically coming out of your mouth, the number one characteristic that any corporation can benefit from when hiring women of color, because we know what a diversity hire looks like. It's not just their skin color,
right?
It's what their passion looks like, what their interest looks like, what their background looks like, and then you're looking at their behavior and saying, like, would they be able to soak up this information and learn on the go?
Yeah,
like
learning on the go.
That right there. So it's called navigational. It's like cultural capital. Okay. And so when you just explain, like, how she was a good fit and how you knew when candidates wouldn't be a good fit based on their interest in wanting to do all these X, Y, and Z to an untrained mind or to a non-woman of color, you might think, oh, they're ambitious. They want to work in all of the departments in the company, and that's why they'd be a good fit. But you're like, hold on, wait a minute now. You're coming from that navigational cultural capital where you're like, oh, that's not going to help you navigate in this industry. That's not going to help you navigate your career well. So you don't even want to set her up for failure, because this requires you to be able to sit still and be patient.
Yep.
Like, what you're saying is, like literally practically what that social capital, that cultural capital looks like in a Black woman, in a powerful Black woman, and then in a team of smart Black women who are hiring in a research role.
Yep.
So that is so impactful. I almost forgot my other thought because you like that just that is literally on. This is what it was. Because as we talk about all the stuff that you've done, I know you've done so many different careers, which I think is it's actually an advantage because you know what you don't like. I try to help people understand the value of exploring, but it's scary to explore, and you literally. You know, childcare, insurance, the weather company, like you are literally exploring, not to mention you guys, Kaneisha is a, what do they call it? Serial entrepreneur.
A serial entrepreneur,
You are a serial entrepreneur from fitness to, so from fitness to elevated picnics. And I'm trying to figure out, I feel like there's another one.
Well, there's two, but they fall under fitness. Core that I deal with my friend that I met when I was working in insurance.
Oh, you met her in insurance? I didn't know that. Okay.
That's the friend that I was talking about that I'm really, really close to. We started a business together.
That is so cool. Okay. And not only that, you were getting ready to start your own bar, like at least have be a stake owner in a bar industry. So I think that plus elevated picnics, Kaneshia has done all of these things while being a corporate employee.
Yeah. That's very difficult.
But it's lit. Oh my God. And you do it looking fabulous.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So tell us. Okay. There seems to have been a shift because when you left the weather company, that girl doesn't seem like she would have been able to manage her job and the entrepreneurial world. So where was the shift and what does that look like for you now?
Like the first thing that comes to mind is not even a professional shift. It's a personal shift because, my boyfriend now, we met each other when we were in high school when I was like 15 and we were on and off dating and kind of like best friends at the time. And you know, when you're not like in a committed relationship, you're dating several people. And one day I came to see him and he looked at me and he was like, your energy is all over the place. And I was like, me? And he was like, yeah, you know, I just feel like you're not here. You know, you're here, but you're not here. And I thought about it and I was like, you know, I am talking to several people and energy is very transferable. And I'm just like, it could also just be the fact that I'm spreading myself thin. Like I'm in so many things. Like I understand you have a lot of passion for things or people, but people can sense when you're like not aligned. And I couldn't sense that I wasn't aligned because I was paying attention to everything else outside of me. So, when I slowed down with the amount of people I was talking to, and then when I slowed my mind down with the amount of attention I was giving everything, I was able to like transition from that busy girl, just doing stuff to be busy and to like, you know, get to where I wanted to get to the girl who be present and then figure out, you know, how to get there when the time comes. Everything doesn't have to happen right now. Like, and you know, that just worked for me. Something he said that day just clicked and I'm like, oh, he's right.
Ooh.
I'm all over the place.
If we can get a timeline, you left the weather company what year?
I started there in 2014, so about 2016. 2016,
and then you started Bounce when?
Oh boy, when did I start Bounce?
Well, 5 years?
Has to be around that time, but like later in that year.
Okay, and so that means in between that time, it was the year that
I was barely at that childcare place because I hated it. I was barely at that insurance place because I hated it. So that was a year of like a lot of bouncing.
Yeah.
Bouncing.
No pun intended, y'all.
Yeah.
So then when did you have that conversation with your boyfriend?
I really don't even know because we weren't like locked down with each other yet. We were still like, yeah, you cool, but he cool too. Like we were in that phase and I can't remember when that was. Because we just been talking to each other for so long that everything is like a blur.
Yeah. And it was after the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because like you, even though we're having this conversation about like careers, so much of what we do is really personal.
Yeah.
Like everything that is going right inside will go right in your job, whether you're entrepreneur or corporate. And so you just literally spoke to like, if there's something like you had I want to say luxury, or privilege, but the universe really sent you someone who could see you because you couldn't see yourself at that point.
Yeah.
And I think I would venture to say that that's what helped you level up in your professional career.
I agree.
And maybe even what helped you sit down a little bit. Like when you said you started bouncing, you're like, I'm going to sit here, because that's one thing I didn't learn from my first career.
Yeah.
That might have just been a bug or a seed that was planted.
For sure.
That helped you.
For sure. Now I gotta give him a gift or something.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Okay, so all right. So the entrepreneurial life. How much of your story do you want to share when it comes to Elevated Picnics is so lit. If you guys go up to Instagram, it's at Elevated Picnics, right?
Yep.
And the company really just kind of blossomed. And one thing that we haven't talked about, guys, is that you're leaving Bounce in 4 weeks.
Yep.
And
very excited.
That is exciting. Are you leaving to be a full-time entrepreneur? So tell us more about the shift.
Oh boy. So I've always like had an entrepreneurial mind because my dad is an entrepreneur, has always been, since I was born. He doesn't like necessarily working for anybody else. He likes carving out his own, way. And my mom was a little different. She works in healthcare, but it's still kind of entrepreneurial because she didn't work under like a big company umbrella. She had like individual clients. Okay. And then we're also not from this country. And, we lived in Brooklyn for a while. We lived in Miami for a while. So hustling is like, innate. DNA. Yeah. You see it, you become it, you live it, you operate that way. So even when I was younger, I used to do like little things like, braid hair on the bus, $5.
Yep.
Like, you need your hair put in a ponytail today, $5. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just part of who I was. And it wasn't a money hungry thing. It was it's just coming natural to me. Like if you need my services, even when I'm 12 years old, we can do it. Like, it's fine. So, I've just always been that way, on that wave. Like, you know what I'm saying? I will work for somebody, but at the same time, I'm thinking about, okay, well, when I do have my own company, what can I take from this to help me figure out how to operate? So, when it comes to Bounce, the transition is happening because we're understaffed. And I've been working there for a very long time. And the Black women team that we had, the woman who hired all of us, she decided to leave because she felt like she was being undervalued. Great lesson to learn for me. Because she has been working here for the longest. She hired all of us. And if she feels like the company is undervaluing her, it kind of puts us in a position to be exposed to also being undervalued and just how much, because she wasn't there to buffer anymore. So she was like, she had a conversation with us on a Saturday, which, obviously we had to have a good relationship for you to call me on a Saturday. And she was like, yeah, I just want to be real with y'all. I took a package. We were bought over by a bigger company and they're making a lot of changes and a lot of shifts and they don't see the value in me and what I've done for this team. Cool. Completely understand it. So she was like, not saying that you guys should leave, but just telling you all the decision I made, so that you're not surprised or shocked or anything. And then they brought in someone to replace her and it was a white male. Completely threw off what we had going on for years, right? And he's not a bad person, but it did shift the energy of the group, right? Then they brought in 2 other women, but they were white women, which I don't have a problem with, but it just continued to shift the energy of the group. And my boss that left, she was so instrumental in like helping us get to where we wanted to get to. And then she would also tell us in the office while we're at work, like, make sure you got a backup plan. Like, you never know what could happen. Like, something could happen to the company tomorrow. Like, make sure you're still thinking about your passions or whatever. And anybody who tells you that in a corporate space, I think is very, very important to take heed to.
Absolutely.
So, while I'm working, I'm like, oh, my boss said I should have a backup plan. I got that backup plan. I'm still an entrepreneur at heart. So she's just telling me kick it into high gear. Did it. So behind the scenes, started working at bar. Right?
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, actually, because I was training at another bar studio in Atlanta that was predominantly white.
Okay.
And I was there for like 6 months, going to trainings at like 6:30 a.m. till about 7:30, then taking a shower, and then driving all the way to the city to go to work for Bounce at 9 in the morning.
Okay.
Just because I was like, this is something I feel like I want to do. This is an entrepreneurial step in my head.
Yeah.
6 months down the road, they tell me like, you're too dancey. Okay, I'm a dancer. I've been dancing since I was 4 years old. That's not going to...
It's who I am. So
right. So that same day, somebody DM'd me information about Bar Remix and was like, hey, I seen this bar studio. You should check it out. Okay. I was like, all right, y'all rejected me after work today because it was down the street from my job. Drive out here, ran into Elena. She was up there like setting it up. Yeah. And I told her about it and she was like, girl, just come in here. So just come in here. She was like, I like your energy. I feel like you got something to bring to the table. Yeah. We're literally going through auditions right now. Just come on.
That's awesome.
And that's how I ended up there.
Okay.
And it's literally 4 minutes away from Bounce, like driving down the street. So it became like easy for me to work there and then drive down the street and go teach a class because in my head, I'm thinking, this is my backup plan, right? So I'm trying to build with this company because who knows what could happen with my 9 to 5. So anyways, after she left, the new people came in and they pretty much started to bog us down with work. Like, I'm talking about we felt used completely. I'm working till 11 p.m. sometimes, just overdoing it without any kind of appreciation. Not saying that you have to have it, but it goes a long way after, you're overworking yourself. So, I just realized, I fell in love with research, not necessarily for the research aspect, but for the energy of the team. Like I was telling you, what I was getting from it. And that started to diminish when she left. And then my director was talking about leaving. And I'm kind of like, not saying that I'm leaving for y'all, but I feel like I've gotten all I need to get from here. Yeah. Because I've done research before. Like, I know how to do this. And now the positivity that I was getting from working with these women is no longer available to me because we are literally ripping at the seams. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to hold it out. I'm going to see how long I can stick this out because I told myself I would be patient and then ended up finding out that I was pregnant. Right? Which was great. It was great. And then my mom was like, Kaneisha, like you are one of the busiest people I know. You're teaching classes. You're working a 9 to 5. You and you just started this business. Like, what are you going to do when the baby comes? And I'm like, she's probably right. Like, I need to make some shifts somewhere. So I thought about it and I'm like, what can you cut out that isn't serving you right now? And it was my 9 to 5 because I was so stressed out just trying to meet these deadlines and, cover for people who had, left the company and all these things. And I'm like, why are you taking on that responsibility when you just shouldn't? Yeah. Like, you already feel a sense of release as far as this goes. You already feel detached. You already feel complete as far as what you need to learn. Step away and be okay with the decision to step away because something else is about to step in that's going to require a little bit more attention from you. So, literally, I had woke up one day. It was a Monday. I'm sitting at the computer and I'm in a meeting, like a Zoom meeting. And I'm like, I can't do this no more. Like, this is it for me. Like, so I called my director and I told her, I was like, I have a baby coming. I can't be stressed. I have a company that's super successful and I can't give it 110% because I'm here overworking myself. So then she was like, I feel you. Leave if you have to leave. Do what you have to do. Like, you've been here for quite some time, like, you're great. I would hate to see you go, but I completely understand it. So the next day I put in my resignation. And felt very calm and secure about it. Yeah.
Now the difference. Now when you left the Weather Channel, I'm looking at it as two different transitions. When you left the Weather Channel, it wasn't because you were stressed, but you didn't have a job. And then when you left this one, when you made the decision, it was like, hold up, wait a minute, before I even get stressed, let me cut this at the nip it at the bud. But you also have something going on, which is a little bit different than when you were at the weather channel.
Definitely.
So it sounds like all of the things that you have just gone through in this entire journey has really like set you up for this specific transition, because now that you're leaving your 9-to-5, you've already started. So since bar, you've already started to build up this like entrepreneurial like muscle, right? So you're already managing your schedule. You are already managing your revenue and your income in that realm. You had 2 different buckets. And so once you like let go of the 9-to-5, well, actually, before we even say that, then you picked up Elevated Picnics, which I feel like there was a little bit of overlap between bar and Elevated Picnics.
Yep, there was.
Okay. So you were doing the 2, and now Elevated Picnics has taken on a whole identity of its own.
Absolutely.
So really, it's not that you're not like leaving for nothing. You're like leaving for an elevation. And this is like a cool elevation, because you're going into work for yourself. You're about to have a whole new life in this world. Oh my God. This is a huge chapter for you. And the blessing is, who doesn't want to go on an elevated picnic? Now, a little bit about your business. How did that even come about? Like, what's the elevation? What's the evolution?
Nice. I see what you did there. That's cute.
How did it come about? Tell us more.
Okay, so COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
While I was working in Buckhead at my 9-to-5, so we transitioned to working at home. My boyfriend, on the other hand, used to manage all the events on the roof of Pont City Market. So when COVID hit, people weren't having private events anymore, so he got let go. And he was really like, sad about it, because you've met him. His personality is like through the roof. He loves people, like putting events together is like his thing, and he fell in love with it. So, like for the first day he was down, and I told him like, it's fine. Like, you're going to find better. Let him go through his feelings and stuff. I feel like the next day or maybe the day after that, he looked at me in the bed and he was like, we both been working separately. Like, you do your thing, I do my thing. We're home now with each other. Like, let's work on something together. Let's come up with a business together. And at first I was like, boy. But then he was like, no, I'm serious. Like, take a day. You come up with some stuff. I come up with some stuff. Let's compare it and then like pick what we feel. Like, literally he gave me homework. Yeah.
That's dope though.
Yeah. He's awesome. So we came up with like a list of things, and then we presented it to each other like in a workspace. Like, had a little board, like, all right, look, this is my idea, this is why it should work, yada yada. And he gave me his opinion on my ideas, and then vice versa. And we came up with 2 really good ones, and then we were like, well, which one could we do right now? And Elevated Picnics is the one that hit, because it was like, we could make a picnic. Right. So we started like gathering things, and then we was like, we can be extra sometimes as individuals. So we're like, oh, let's add this and let's add this. And it kind of like took off. And, the name it came to us while we were working on it, and people love it. He said to me the other day, I didn't think we would do this well with this. It really like grew legs and ran away from us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we love it. That's how that happened.
Okay, so I'm just curious for the entrepreneur listening, who starts with an idea and they think they want to execute it. Like, what were some of the pieces that went into it? And then, like, where would you say you are in terms of growth of the company? Would you say like it's still in its infancy phase, or do you still feel like you're catching momentum and you're still on an incline? How would you describe that? Well, first, how'd you get those pieces together to execute, and then what phase would you say you're in?
So, first, what we did was we really put a lot of energy into finding a great picnic basket. That sounds so funny, but I swear to you, like, hours searching on the internet for like, this basket ain't cool enough. Like, and we found one that was so hard to find. It was like somebody was hand making it or something, and like you could put wine in it, and then it had like a cooler in the back and all this cool stuff. And we ordered it, and we were like, wait till it comes. Like, and it came, and at first we didn't really like it, and then we were like, let's just try it. And then we built around the picnic, like added things that elevated the basket, for lack of better words, right? And we set up a picnic in our computer room at home, in our office. We set it up on the floor like a mock setup, and then we set up something on our front lawn like a mock setup. We will look at it and then be like, oh, we need this, and then we'll buy it, and then we'll do the setup again, and then be like, oh, we should add this, buy it, see what works. And then finally we got to a point to where we were like, we think this is good. And we invited my sister, who takes really great photos, and then a couple of friends, and we're like, y'all just come out and pose for us. And then we had my sister take the pictures, and then that's how we formed the social media and the website from Squarespace. And then our first day, we put it up, and we're like, let's just see what happens. And we got a client on our first day.
Oh my God!
Yeah, they were so in love with it, and we're just like, dang, we're booked already. And then after that, just.
Wow. You guys were booked on the first day
the very first day.
That is dope. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I would imagine part of it is because like we were in Corona and people were just ready to do stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. For sure. So, but it sounds like perfect timing. Mm-hmm. And then were you guys ready to take the bandwidth that you got like so soon? Or how did the we keep saying elevation. I know it's everything.
It's a great word.
Yeah. How did the elevation happen? Like, were you able to take the bandwidth, and how's the support?
It's still a tug of war because you wanna serve more clients, but you also have to realize where your capabilities end, mm-hmm. right? So initially we were doing 3 picnics a day, a 10 a.m., a 2 p.m., and a 6 p.m. because, I'm still working my 9 to 5 at home and, he's not working. So during the 10 and the 2, he can go out there and handle it. And then I can go out there for the 6 and, we can make it work. And then it started to get, we started to get really booked. Okay. And I'm like, dang, like I don't want him running out there all the time, doing it by himself. Like, we need people. And then sometimes for the 10 a.m.s, I would go out there with him at 8:30 before work, set up the picnics and then leave. And he would meet the client. And I would like bring my computer and be working in the car or, sign on so they can see that I'm here, move the mouse a little bit. Just trying to make it work, you know what I mean? And that's another reason why I felt like I had to leave because I'm like my job is impeding in everything that I'm trying to do right now. Like I'm literally carrying around this bulky computer just to shake my mouse or answer emails or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, this is so unnecessary. Like you got all these clients on the back end trying to book you and you're giving your attention to a 9 to 5 that you already feel done with. So, that played a part in me leaving too. Mm-hmm. And then we eventually told ourselves, like, we have to hire. Bottom line, we got to hire. Like, there's no way around it. Mm-hmm. So we hired 3 girls the other day. Super awesome. Love them. They're great. And then you have to relinquish a little bit of that control for a company that you created because, that's your baby. But, if you want to be able to step back from doing one thing to do something else to elevate the company, you have to put people in place who could, do what you do. Yeah. So we started doing that. And that's been helpful. So now we've opened up all of our time slots to like double. So now we have 2 10s, 2 6s, 2 2s. And then eventually we want to, because right now we've kind of like mastered that park. Mm-hmm. We want to have a team at every park in Atlanta and hopefully be able to travel to another state, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's happening,
That is so
It's
cool.
rolling.
Yeah, literally rolling. Y'all are rolling. I want to say downhill because the momentum is catching up.
Yeah. It's happening so fast.
Oh my God. There's so many things. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking back to the time when I recorded that time-lapse video. Of you guys. And one thing is for sure, I didn't realize how, like if I thought back to, if I knew about this documentary story beforehand, I don't think I would have sent you that video.
Oh girl, no, I love that video. I do love that video. I do. I'm going to use it too.
Well, if you do, but I was just thinking like how this is your lane. So do you feel like film plays a part, like either film, research, production, any of that? Do you feel like you're going to bring it to Elevated Picnics from this point forward?
Oh, for sure. I feel like I have. Like a lot of the videos that are on our social media, I shoot them. Or we also have like a in-house photographer and videographer that we went to high school with, try to keep it in the family. And they come out to clients. We allow like clients to book them through us, and they come out and they do like a recap video or they take pictures for them. But then setting up the decor for people, you kind of have to think about how people are. Like, you can't just seat them anywhere in here. You can't put the table anywhere. Like it has to make sense. Mm-hmm. So, me studying people for so long since college, and then just being a very like picturesque, like, you know, this has to fit in this frame type of person. I see things from that perspective. So I think that's really helpful for what we do, for sure.
Wow, I can ask you questions all day about this because I feel like we could go super granular about you scheduling and stuff, or we can go really big on like, you really gave us a good picture of where Elevated Picnics is going to go. So if you guys are listening, wait for Elevated Picnics to come to a city near you because that's going to be so lit. So I guess I'll ask you one other question before we head up out of here because I totally could keep you all day.
Yeah, that's fine.
But what would you say? Let me think. I think this is what is on my heart to ask because I'm curious to know, like, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in the last? If you could pick three, if it's too many to pick one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment since you've done so many different things and you're now currently about to take another transition? The reason I ask is because it's good that we take stock and inventory of the things that we've done in the past. So many times, like, we just do, and then we never, like, reflect on, what did I learn? What am I bringing?
Yeah.
And I know you reflect, so it shouldn't be too hard, but I think sitting in that, like, what are those 1 or 3 accomplishments that you are just bringing into this new phase of life? It would be really good to bring that out.
That's a good question. The film, for sure. I learned a lot from doing that film, as you can see. Definitely learned a lot from doing that. But another thing I'll say that I think my biggest accomplishment was when we used to live in Florida. I used to be, like, very active in sports, and I used to try to run, like, you know, those 4Ks or whatever. Girl, you can tell I don't do it now because I don't even know what to call it. But
like a 5K?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. But they had this thing in Florida called the Orange Bowl. And you could sign up for it, and it's basically like a really long run, right? And when I was running it, I signed up for it, you know, thinking that I got this, right? I was running it, and, like, midway through, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not making it. Like, Mom, Dad, come get me. Like, come pick me up. Yeah, tapping out right now. And then my dad actually joined me on the trail and ran the rest with me. Which, you know, he talks about this story from time to time, and it really does touch my heart, makes me emotional. But it really taught me to persevere. You know, like, so, you know, when I would go to these jobs and I feel like I'm not smart enough for this or whatever, it taught me to persevere. Like, just push through. Like, you like, my dad joins me mentally instead of, like, physically during the race. Like, I just imagine somebody very supportive standing by me and helping me get to the finish line with, like, everything that I do. You know, like, even if something is difficult, like working at bar, or, you know, when you go through situations where you're not exactly where you want to be, finish it. And then you feel so much better at the end. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, that's 2. Yes, look at you. See, you passed one to me. Now you passing yourself a tier. So that's 2. What would those be your top 2?
Soon. Do I have a third? I do have a third, which I hope this does not make me cry. I think I turned, I can't remember how old I was, but, you know, for your birthday, people always ask you, like, what do you want? And I just got to a point where I was like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you. I'm not a materialistic person, so I can't say, like, oh, yeah, give me this Gucci bag, or, you know, that's not me. You know that. And one year for my birthday, I decided to write everyone in my immediate family a letter, right? Just thanking them for basically playing a part in who I am to that day. And it was super, super reflective for me because I ended up doing, like, a lot of apologizing for the way that I used to be. Because, you know, I saw the growth in myself, and, you know, I'm pretty sure my family saw it too, but I wanted to dedicate my birthday to realizing that they played a huge part in the growth in very different ways. And I wanted it to be very intimate, you know, so I wrote it paper and pen.
Yeah.
And gave it to them individually. Definitely did a lot of apologizing to my parents because, they do the best that they can. And me about to be a parent, like, I'm going to do the best that I can. And I feel like sometimes we expect our parents to be like superheroes, like they have no faults. Mm-hmm. And even in their faults, I think they're amazing. So same thing with my brother and my sister. Like, you go through things with people very close to you, but you really grow and learn from that. So I was very proud of myself for getting to a reflective stage and being able to look at things that weren't exactly so pretty about me, but I could handle them. Mm. So I thought that was pretty great. And I take that with me now. Like if I'm in a situation that's not so pretty or, I feel uncomfortable, I'm like, I can handle it. Mm. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Kaneisha, I want to thank you so much for making this experience so lit for me. I promise you, I'm going to be doing interviews for years to come just because of this one conversation. But I really love about your story.
I love interviews. I watch them all day.
So that's why you're so good at this, because when you answer questions, and this is what, and it's not just your interview, it's truly your reflection. Because when you think about, we're having this like career-driven conversation, but everything, and what I want everyone to know is that your personal is tied to your job. Even if you're not what you do, you still bring who you are to the job.
Absolutely.
And so every step of your story is an example of like how your personal development contributed to your professional success. So people, I would just urge you to like, not you, but like because clearly they can hear you as an example of reflection and self-reflection, and then looking at yourself, reviewing things about yourself, and then just kind of living better, being a better human. Because once you're able to do that, I think you'll find, the positions that you're in, you'll learn something from them. And from your story, you've done a million things.
Yeah.
But if someone asks you who you are, they would say an inspiration. You know what I mean? Like calm spirit, very grounded. I'm talking a lot, but when you go into this next chapter, you're literally, these are three things that your baby will more than likely experience as a person. I'm so great that you didn't say like, oh yeah, the membership club. I mean, that could be somebody's greatest. It could, but you said something that you can pass down that we should all do as humans. So thank you so much. Is there any last things that you'd like to say before we close out the Work and Play podcast?
What can I say?
Leave us with some.
It might not be all extra deep, but
whatever you got.
Definitely, like don't fall short of what you have always been passionate about. Like find a way for it to fit into everything that you do in whatever capacity that is, for sure. Like, I take film with me everywhere. And storytelling, pretty much, that's what it is.
Yes, it is. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this interview. I have enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. So I hope you have as well. I want to recreate conversations like this over and over and over. So y'all just hold me to it. If you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, even if you want to know more about my guest here, this, beautiful soul, then please drop it in the comments or DM me. Reach out to me at ariel@guidedcp.com. And Kaneisha, how can they contact you and get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, K_Montague, MONTAGUE, or of course at Elevated Picnics on Instagram or elevatedpicnics.com.
Thank y'all for watching. Tune in later. I will see you guys soon. Peace out, guys.